All right, man. I ain't finna make no introduction. Just gonna get right into it. All right, so and going back and forth once again, like I talked about on my last video, going back and forth with people that I've been knowing for years, who are trying to basically try to water down things that have happened. They try to diminish the significance of things that have happened. They try to be dismissive. You know what I'm saying? They want to come up and show videos of well, this happened to this white person. Didn't everybody get outraged and this and other? First of all, if a similar situation that happened to George Floyd or many other brothers who died at the hands or were abused at the hands of the police, if it happened to your white brother, why didn't you ride for him? Why didn't you demand justice? We probably would have rolled with you. But don't expect us to stand up, put ourselves out there on an island standing up for somebody that you're not even going to stand up for. You know what I'm saying? And then to use them as an example after the fact and say, this is all the media. It's just the media doing this, that, and the other. Man, you're out your rabbit ass mind. The media, these people that are dying, these aren't characters on a video game. These aren't these aren't avatars. These are real people out here dying in these streets, and it's been that way for years. The injustices are real. They're not made believe. They're not made up. The biases, the oppression, the systematic oppression, the police brutality that is very much disproportionate toward black African American men, or not even just African American men, people of color, even in general, is real, very much so. And it's just one of the things where I'm to the point I'm not fixing to keep going back and forth with people about it. But I'll say this, as far as the protests and things of that nature, I'm hoping that they get the desired effect. But the reality is that change has to happen, and it has to happen at the top. But it has to be forced. It's not going to happen because we just want it. It's not going to happen just because we protest or we make videos or just because we rally or even because we ride and loot or because people ride and loot. So I'm not going to say we as if black people are the only ones out there riding and looting. I'm talking about people in general that are out there. And a lot of those people that are out there rioting or a lot of those people that are out there looting aren't even for the cause. They're just out there as opportunists like, hey, man, this is going on. There's an opportunity for me to go out here and come up on some stuff. Or it's an opportunity for me to go out here and destroy some shit, and it's going to get blamed on some other people because of what's going on. Because even up here near where I live, there was a cemetery that was vandalized and tombstones kicked over and stuff, and they spray painted Black Lives Matter on it and stuff. Man, from my understanding, it was determined that it was some white boys that actually done it. And the reality is that from my experience in life, man, black people don't too fun to go out there messing with cemeteries and tombstones and dishonoring the dead and things like that. That's just not stuff we do. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's just very uncommon because most of us were brought up a certain way and we were taught certain things. And then we also have certain things that we are innately afraid of, you know what I'm saying, for one reason or another. So there's a lot of stuff going on to make it seem like things are happening that aren't really happening. And it's further fanning the flames. But I'm not blaming that shit on the media. You know what I'm saying? I give the media credit for exposing what happened. But for people to sit here and say, well, why wasn't this made into a big deal? Why wasn't that made into a big deal? If every single time someone is murdered by the cops, it was blown up like these cases have been, then that would be great. Because if it was every time you turn around, it was a big, just something going viral, and it was happening every single time, then it would have to get the attention that it gets. But the reality is that if that were the case, there would be no other news reported, because all of the news would be centered around somebody being brutalized or taken advantage of by the cops. I don't know very many black people who don't know someone or having themselves experienced some kind of mistreatment or injustice at the hand of law enforcement. And even when I say at the hand of law enforcement, I'm not just talking about white law enforcement officers. I'm talking about law enforcement in general. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? The reality is that oftentimes when it happens, nothing is done about it. A lot of times we don't even report it because we don't believe that we're going to get justice in those cases. A lot of times we just take it and say, okay, well, I'm glad I didn't get killed in that situation. And that's not okay. But one thing I want to say is the marching and things like that, that's all well and fine. But I want to say, I remember watching a video and listening to Malcolm X speak years ago. And I tried to find it recently. But I remember Malcolm talking about we march and we've been marching for over 100 years. And we're marching on the anniversary of marches and nothing's happening. And we all know, if you know anything about the things Malcolm talked about and you listen to him, you know how he felt about the March on Washington. He called it the farce on Washington because he felt like it was all about, it was basically smoke and mirrors to disarm the people or to make people feel like they were getting something that they really weren't getting. So I see a lot of things that have happened in my lifetime where I felt like, okay, this is going to be the break. Things are going to really change for the better. And yeah, some things have changed. Yeah, we did get a black president. And albeit he was biracial. And I say that because I feel like some people who were okay with him being president, they were okay because he was biracial, not because he was someone that they would view 100%, and there's no such thing really as a 100% black person or 100% white person or whatever, because we're all mixed up in some way or another, in my opinion. But the reality is that in this country, racism is so crazy that people are viewed as their levels of blackness. So we even do it to each other. We look at one another and use black as an insult, like, call each other black as a form of insult to one another. So if you ask me, did Barack Obama being biracial help him get elected versus had he been my complexion? I think it did. Could I be wrong in that? Yeah, of course I could. I've been wrong about a lot of things. But I do know that I have seen a certain tolerance of a certain complexion of black people versus another complexion of black people, that certain people are more tolerant of one over the other unless they're given a reason not to be. If because this fair-skinned black person does something that makes them say, oh, he's no better than those dark-skinned black people. You know what I'm saying? So, and I could go into details about all that, but I don't want to do that because the video's gone long enough, but also because I don't want to get too personal. But I've had experiences in life that tell me and have shown me that, where a certain complexion of black person gets certain privileges over another complexion of black person. And it goes both ways. I mean, it's not just that the lighter skin one gets something that it also goes in reverse. But I want to end in saying that we definitely got to have some significant change come out of all of this. Otherwise, what was the purpose of it? And I've seen the post where people say what makes George Floyd so special and so forth and so on. Those very people that are saying that wouldn't want to trade places with George Floyd because they're here living and breathing and going on about their life, making posts and complaining. But I will say that this is bigger than George Floyd. It has been bigger than George Floyd from jump. It was always bigger than George Floyd. It was always bigger than one man. It's bigger than Ahmaud Arbery. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger than and forgive me, her name escapes me. I think Breonna Taylor. It's bigger than Breonna Taylor. It is so much bigger than any one case or any series of cases. This is something that has been brewing for a long time, and it's certain people in America have been turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what has been right in their face for so long, and certain people have gotten to a point where they're like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Even with, if you look at the Commissioner Roger Goodell in the NFL, whether you believe his sincerity or not, And what he's saying is, you know, a few years ago, they thought Colin Kaepernick was absolutely wrong, and they 100% stood on the other side of the fence on that issue. And now he's backpedaling, saying that we were wrong and that we should have supported him 100%. So it's time for some people to open their eyes, and sometimes opening your eyes is the hardest thing in the world to do. But it has to be done. People have to make a change, and it has to start at the top. You know, there's a lot of things wrong with our government. Even the division with the Democrats and Republicans, who I always refer to as the two biggest gangs in America, two most powerful gangs in America. That whole system, in my opinion, needs to be thrown away. All it does is promote and propagate division, a lack of unity. It promotes a separatist society, whereas they claim that this country is built on unity. It's supposed to be indivisible. It's supposed to be about liberty and justice for all, but that all doesn't encompass all of the people in the country. And it seems that everything is catered toward a certain group of people, and it's been that way, and it's been accepted for so long, and that's what needs to change. My baby boy is 15 years old, has wanted to be a soldier since he could talk, you know, and for me to see him take his American flag off his wall and tell me that he don't want that flag on his wall until he sees change, that brought some things home for me. That made some things very personal. And not that other things didn't, but it's like for this kid who has wanted nothing but to be a soldier, to basically say that that's not something I want to do. I can't do that until things change. And I can't stand under that flag until things change. That kind of made me look at things a whole lot different. But that's all I got to say on the D-Lo 404. I'm out. Peace.